Aye, aye. Okay. Let's build one of my babies, yeah? Keep your bits organized. Ish. See, normally I've actually been batching certain parts of the process, such as to, maintain patterns of movement, which makes you a little more efficient, but I might as well go start to finish before I completely lose myself. I finally switched to PCBs, as opposed to just raw dogging it with protoboard. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be as quick and sexy, so you're going to notice a lot of jump cuts. Because I'm not used to working with a camera in front of my face. Then I'm going to get self-conscious, and then my hands are going to get shaky, and everything's going to look ugly. But, you know, such is the nature of marketing. But shh, that's the quiet part. I'm not supposed to know that I actually want you guys to buy these things. Because that means that it's not real art. Never mind the fact that I've been trying to systemize my processes such that I can hand make these as efficiently as one individual can. So I don't want to say paint by numbers, but basically, you know. So I can follow a fairly casual build order and have things fit together in a consistent way. Because these are made with love, and I want all my children to be beautiful. Here's where it's awkward to work around the camera. I should probably let my iron heat up while I'm waiting for this. I'd say that's a good shop tip, is make sure you've got plenty of light to work with. Before I go deep into it, notice that my skin does not like the little bits of flux spatter that I get. Which tends to be more of an issue on my left hand, or I guess my solder hand. My depth perception skewed, so I didn't get that one properly. I am socketing my op amp. Might be a little superstitious, but I don't know, in the event that it somehow blows up or dies or whatever, the It's nice if it's easily replaceable or repairable, or if somebody, for some reason, wants to defy my vision of what is important in this circuit, that they may replace it with a component of their own choosing. But, because I am objectively better than everybody else on the planet, I chose it for a good reason. I might talk about that later. If anybody has any preference whether they like their tolerance bands on the left side or the right side, I'd like to hear it. But I think we can all agree that they should go on the bottom side if you have any vertically mounted resistors relative to the board's north-south facing resistors. Some way, which way. Now we actually get to the namesake of the pedal. People who talk to me behind closed doors would know that the reason for the name of the pedal is threefold. I want it to make people's eyes hurt. I want people to sound like they're having a stroke when they say it. The actual wavefolding network uses a quad of 22K resistors. So 22, 22, 22, 22. 22 by 4. Gives you 8 of them. 8 twos. And then of course, because I made a circuit revision, I ended up adding a fifth one in the input amplifier. But that guy doesn't count, he's not actually in the wavefolding network. Goes elsewhere. Oh, that's all the resistors. That's what happens when you get in the flow. Unfortunately, this Michael Jackson glove makes me a little less dexterous, and it limits my ability to grip leads prior to bending them. I think I'm going to be pretty shameless about how I cut my edits. I'm basically talking off the cuff here, which I'm not super comfortable doing outside of a conversational context. But I'm all alone. Please just imagine that I'm dropping these snipped leads into the trash as opposed to just letting them fall haphazardly on my workbench. I'd like to pretend that I'm a neat and organized individual. It's been drilled into my head that solder is not glue. So I try to at least maintain some sort of mechanical sureness in my joints, such that, yeah, I can just rotate this board around and nothing falls out, because at least everything is crimped and sitting on the board while I wait for my iron to warm up. Just like the honey says, keep your tip clean. thing that I do take some degree of pride in this circuit is that there's very few capacitors. Basically just have the input coupling cap, the output coupling cap, and one in the input amplifier, as well as this little blue filter cap here. That minimizes the amount of high passing that you get. And even though I'm using fairly large caps and those high pass points should be, you know, almost subsonic, I do have a slight flaw in the output, which could potentially bite into some low bass range. At least that effect isn't compounded by the increasing slope, as you have, like, you know, more and more and more stages of coupling. Because this is a slightly modified synthesizer circuit, so the entire thing is intended to be worked with a bipolar power supply, right? But since we're in Guitar World and I'm not doing any charge pump tricks to derive the bipolar power supply, I basically have to float the entire thing around a half supply voltage reference, which allows me to get away with having very little coupling. And then this little blue cap here is actually as a little insurance policy, because I have no control over what the input that a given user is going to feed into the device, right? It's like, I am just going to use it straight in with a bass guitar. But that doesn't mean that some wily individual isn't going to, say, run like a super heavy distortion into it, or like a square wave synthesizer, or like their dub siren or something, if somebody actually has a dub siren. So that there is just pulling a little bit of trouble out of the input. It's like a fairly gentle cut around 1K, which is pretty high in bass world. Which restores a little bit of rising and falling edge to the input signal and gives the wavefolding network something to bite into. Work its magic on. So if for whatever reason you're trying to play super quiet so it doesn't fold, you will notice a darkening of your input signal. But the idea is that you get that treble information back as you go through the wavefolding. If anyone's concerned about all the fumes coming off of these solder joints, do rest partially assured that I am using lead-free solder. However, I am warned on the packaging of this thing that the rosin flux that they actually embed into the core of these things can cause, what do they call it? Occupational asthma. Yeah, that's something that sounds like I want to develop. But being the non-smoker that I am aware and have developed a technique where I only exhale after I finish the joint. I don't know. That's a punchline. I do have to call out Panasonic a little bit on these caps here. They told me it was a 5mm lead spacing. That was a lie. This is a 2.5mm spacing that they kinked out to make a 5. Don't trust anybody. However, that does give me the option of twisting it and leaning it over and covering my lovely little signature on these boards that I so painstakingly designed with my rudimentary layout knowledge. But, you know, start before you're ready. Make sure your diodes point the right way. I made that mistake on one of these builds already. Fortunately, that error did not get very far. Yeesh. Those little extra bits of adhesive just getting stuck on the flux. Love it. Love it. Makes me look super coordinated. I think that's everything. Alright, I guess it is. Fortunately, those extra long Panasonic leads give me the freedom, and the flexibility, and the option of bending those up and aside. If you were wondering what those extra 2 little resistors that I set aside were going to be for, it's for this. This is the big fun addition for the 2222222V 2.2. In that this is the sensitivity switch. Some people, who will remain nameless, were using the expression circuit in the previous version exclusively to add gain to the input amplifier, as opposed to using it for its expressly intended purpose, which was to help add movement to sustaining notes. Now, I do not wish to punish people for unorthodox implementations of tools. I love unorthodox implementations of tools. But it did point out a bit of an oversight in the original design, which was some people just want to be a little more sensitive. Hence the birth of the SNS switch. Which includes high sensitivity, medium sensitivity, which is roughly the same as the original 2222222 circuit, and low sensitivity, because I noticed that one of my basses was maybe a little hyperactive. Alright, now I can doff the MJ glove for a little bit. Set that aside, set that aside. Clean up my work area a little bit, which you're not supposed to know about because I was totally throwing these away as I went. Clean and prim and proper. My component supplier loves wrapping up my orders in tons of little tiny baggies. Now, I don't sell dope, I don't sell blow, so what am I gonna do with these? I know. I'm gonna store little pre-measured bits of wire. Hookup wire. So I know what goes where to maintain some semblance of neatness in my layouts. Now if I was a real tryhard, I would have these all kind of like pre-trimmed and tinned. But nah, you're gonna see that live. And partially off camera, because I'm focused on doing stuff rather than showing you. If you're wondering why I'm not just straight pulling the ends off, it's because I find that leaving the little bits of ends on, one, helps insulate my fingers when I'm actually tinning them, especially on these shorter pieces, and two, gives me a cleaner twist and reduces the risk of pulling out individual strands of these wires and making like just ugly, uneven looking lead ends. It actually is not hard, or expensive even, to order pre-cut and tinned lengths of hookup wire. But considering how idiosyncratic I am about classifying my various lead lengths, especially on fairly dense designs like my dust, where there's potentially a lot of wires, or one project that I have kind of waiting in the wings right now that has a lot of connections. Having generically long lengths will cause just unneeded nonsense inside of an enclosure, especially if I'm trying to standardize on just one or two enclosures and one of them is fairly shallow. Yeah, I gotta be a little careful about some of these layout things. Cubic centimeters are precious in some of these builds. Not so much in 2222222. I intentionally used a slightly oversized enclosure for that. But I still like to maintain consistent practice. Man, I wonder what sort of background music I'm going to be putting on for this. Might do like some weird ambient soundscapey sort of thing. Because that's easy. It's so easy to be lazy and just do like, you know, droney ambient music. Because the discernment for what makes that stuff good is such a bizarre thing to cultivate that almost nobody's actually going to do it. Especially when it's going to be used in a context where you're not supposed to pay attention to it. Alright, back to the MJ glove. Kind of have to wonder what would happen if I touched one of these gloves to my iron. Would it burn? Would it melt? Would I have to panic to get the molten rubber off of my skin in time before it causes a serious burn? Hopefully we don't have to test that on camera. I'm sure if I did, I could make some hilarious, like, goofy face thumbnail and like get all the algorithmic optimization. And then Give it some like macabre title, like "You won't believe what happened to this pedal builder's hand." Unfortunately, that sort of blatant promotion is a little contrary to my personality. I'm a project guy, not a marketing guy, and I'm definitely not a social media guy. But unfortunately, if I want this business venture to thrive, I do need to get good at these things, so who knows? Maybe I'll do the weird, goofy facial expression thumbnails at some point. I want to make a living doing the stuff that I love, and if I need to do a few things that I don't love to enable that, then maybe so be it. The dexterity loss in these gloves really is something I need to get used to. I just got the first thing that I saw on the shelf, and honestly probably overpaid for these. I'm not going to tell you how much I actually did, but they're maybe a little thicker than I need. And unfortunately, because I'm a cheapskate and I'm going to be reusing a bunch of these gloves, it's going to be a long time before I go through them all. I got lost in the sauce, almost forgot an end. It is interesting to see exactly how long it takes me to do one of these builds start to finish. At least, you know, after chassis prep and component sorting. Component. You can tell what's on my mind, ayo. I should probably tell my soldering station to not go on standby. There we go. Ay. All the various sundry little things that turn this from a collection of bits into an actual pedal. I gotta admit, working with this thing in my field of view is not particularly friendly to my posture. Which was not great to begin with, because my work stool is not conducive to a proper seating position. But we make do with what we have. The joy of the edit is that you don't have to see every time I flub up trying to wrangle a very simple little piece into its correct place. They also make boards that greatly simplify this process, but I don't know, I've actually kind of come to like it. I don't know why, It does kind of objectively suck, but... well, call me a masochist. This one's always super finicky and awkward. Usually, you're best off trying to fit one thing in one hole, but sometimes they're just asking for more. That takes care of that bit for the time being. If you made it this far, you really are a sick and twisted individual, you know that, right? That's okay. You're my kind of sick and twisted individual. Yay. My favorite enemy, the expression jack. So, in the V2 of the circuit, and this is not going to last until the V3 because I learned some new things, but basically, the original expression circuit had issues. For one, it did radically mess up your gain staging, right? This isn't like a completely non-linear circuit. It does behave somewhat linearly under certain circumstances. So as you add gain to the circuit, you do get more volume out of it. Right? So, using the original expression circuit caused gain staging issues. And as somebody with a bit of a studio background, gain staging is important. You can find all sorts of YouTube videos telling you about how important gain staging is and how they think you should do it, and you're going to do exactly what they say because you don't think critically. That's beside the point. The other issue was a matter of compliance. My depth perception is really failing me right now. It's a combination of the lighting and the angle. I don't usually have to struggle that much to crimp one stupid wire around a solder tab. That's not even a solder tab, that's a PC pin. But we make do with what we have. Because the industry does not cater to me, yet. Anyways, it was also a matter of compliance, because cadmium is a bit of a no-no chemical in some places, and voltage-controlled light-dependent resistors, LDRs, which are important in the construction of Vactrols, which I was using, rely on cadmium. So because I want my stuff to be, like, future-proof, right? I want there to be, like, minimal fuss and muss when it comes to potentially exporting these things in the future. Or exporting these things when that time comes. I can't be using no cadmium. So to get around that, I just completely rethought how the expression circuit behaved. So originally it was using like an op-amp being controlled via like the expression pedal to drive an LED, which was triggering the Vactrol, which was just, you know, plugged into the input amplifier in such a way that as the Vactrol opened up, it increased the gain of the input amp. This time around, well, I wasn't able to figure out a mundane way of doing that in a compact enough manner that was friendly to the simple layout and construction of this pedal. So I decided to go sideways. So now instead of being a gain boost, this iteration of the expression circuit is a DC offset, which is admittedly a much more subtle effect. It becomes a bit more of like a shifting texture. And it kind of forces the fold points. Yeah, see that's my little fold point indication. To be more focused on the negative swing of the waveform and leaving the positive swing mostly unmodified. Which does also give you the benefit of more interval clarity and low-end poking through. Because that clean amplitude isn't being like subtractively chopped off in such a way. And then I learned new things about certain components that I was not properly educated on. That would actually allow me to go back to the original gain boost style of expression control, and possibly even have that be gain compensated, such that it doesn't completely mess up somebody's gain staging in their pedal chain, using a different form of voltage-controlled resistance. That's going to have to be a V3 concern, so there's going to be several of these V2s before I change that around. We're just doing the best we can, you know? What more can you ask for? I don't know when V3 is going to happen. I also do just kind of like how silly the notion of the 2222222 V2.2 is. So I want to milk this circuit revision for as long as humanly possible. I feel like that lead gets a little too close to that lug there. I've been made mortally afraid of the possibility of tin whiskers, because lead is also a no-no when it comes to potential future exports. I've been having to use, tin silver-based solder as opposed to tin lead-based solder. And for some reason, tin lead solder suppresses the development of tin whiskers, which are probably not even a real concern when it comes to pedals because of the relatively low voltages at play. But you never know. You never know. In 100 years, 1,000 years, something might short out and nobody's gonna know why. Until they dig out some dusty arcane tome that tells of metal filaments developing under differential opposing charges. Or, developing between contacts of differential charge with exposed tin. And they'll wonder why we were so backwards and so primitive that we couldn't solve such a basic feat of physics and chemistry. But, you know, these things take down satellites. NASA has to deal with these. There's entire research papers dedicated to why they're so devastating and why they're so difficult to deal with. Alright, guess it's time to start populating. You know, I get a lot of mileage out of this stupid little hot holder thing. Big shoutouts to DIYRibbonmic.com, who I suppose is the original producer of these things. But in my case, it was DIYRecordingequipment.com that ended up being the one that sold it to me, alongside a bunch of other, well, DIY recording equipment. Got a stereo pair of reamp boxes, because I'm extra like that. Couple mic pre's, some of their color modules. I'm all for anything that democratizes technology. And DIY is kind of the epitome of that. That being said, they do still kind of try to hide their secret sauce a little bit. So it's not completely open. But, you know, they gotta get theirs too. I always kind of tiptoe around the idea of open sourcing my stuff. I guess I kind of am. You guys have gotten to see pretty clear shots of the board from both sides. Almost all of the components are pretty clearly labeled. Somebody with even a rudimentary amount of wherewithal can recreate this on their own. The original designs... Oh! I messed up a tiny bit. Yeah, and the original V1s were done on a proto board. And the layout wasn't even that janky. There we go. Got it. Where was I? Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? If I open source everything, will the market reward me? It's not even like I keep anything a secret, you know. If you talk to me directly, talk shop, I'll just talk your ear off about everything that makes this thing tick. But, like I hinted to at the beginning, that's conversational. I don't like lecturing. I like there to be some interaction, some give and take. Bouncing off, riffing, knowing what ideas need to be expanded upon. More opportunities to be silly and goofy. Alright, not a whole lot left to do now, but mate everything together. I do thoroughly enjoy how you can kind of arbitrarily choose which side your leads have to connect to on these through-hole plated boards. On proto board, unless you're using super skinny wire and are willing to occupy holes that would otherwise potentially be used for connecting components, everything kind of has to go through the top or the component side of the board. Which can pose interesting challenges in dense builds with lots of off-board connections. And with that, all the soldering on this board is done, which means that it's time for... well, it's time for me to put on a second glove. And then it's time to brushy, brushy, brushy. Fortunately, it's off camera, but, you know, when I get into it, kind of like the whole body starts wiggling, so it's kind of like you're doing the brushy, brushy, brushy dance. Kind of adds a weird certain giddiness to the process, which is, in a way, kind of celebratory of approaching the final stages of completing a build. But yeah. Don't want to leave a whole lot of just excess useless flux on the board. So I like to make a point of hitting the places where I'm actively soldering. Good use for a retired toothbrush. Just, you know, emphasis on retired. You do not want to return to that brush after you've gone through this process. And then, one last little thing that I like to do is get this guy nice and squeaky. I don't know if that's ASMR or like anti-ASMR. But, it's definitely one of those two. I guess depending on who you are, too. Man. I'm just hitting all the niche demographics in this. But yeah, that is my incredibly simple insulation strategy for these builds. Because with the way that it gets held off by all the wires and the relative sparseness of my components, because I overspec basically everything, and how the lengths of all the leads kind of holds everything kind of up in the air. I really only need to insulate the thing that's could possibly touch the bottom of the board, which in this case is the back of the pot. I don't know, why do more than you have to? We enjoy elegance, do we not? We have an LED to worry about. Don't forget the little condom. Gotta wrap it before you tap it. I just realized that I forgot to recant my excess isopropyl. Let's rectify that. Waste not, want not, especially with something that flashes off pretty rapidly. You know, it's cheaper than I thought it would be, but it's also not inexpensive. Now I just gotta wire up the jacks. find especially important on jacks, get that mechanical connection before you get the the solder connection. Yeah, with these heavier metal components, you kind of have to work a little extra hot, a little extra slow, really give it a chance to bake in, let's call it. And you do not want cold joints on your jacks, because those are kind of the point of most mechanical stress in these things, aside from, you know, like pots and the foot switch. Because this is the thing that people are always like jiggling when they're putting the cables in and all that. It tends to be more of a failure point on guitars, especially where you know, somebody's moving around. That cable's more likely to get yanked here, there, and everywhere, just vibrate under movement. But I've seen it happen on pedals too. Alright. Naked hand again. Show off those scars. I don't know what it is, but these things are always bent contrary to the direction it's going to be tightened in. You'd think that as you're tightening this thing down and it's crimped the wrong way, it would actually try to spread this stupid little spring ring apart, but what do I know? I'm just some guy who thinks he knows what he's doing. Is this the right socket? Let's find out. Yes, it is. That's not coming off. I hope. So I found that these LEDs do not socket nicely into this particular brand of holder. Unfortunately, these holders are like aesthetically the most pleasing, in my opinion. But they don't retain the LED itself as nicely as the previous ones that I was using. And of course, the second I say that, I get an LED that actually fits in there like quite snugly. Which then poses challenges. Oh, never mind. I lied. Or I was lied to. I'm not sure which is worse, lying or being lied to. Make what judgment you may from that line. You just witnessed a dumb. At least you can trust me to own that dumb. I definitely subscribe to the school of tight hardware. I guess, to briefly comment on that dab of super glue and this internally connected DC jack, I do want my devices to be disassemblable and serviceable and repairable and modifiable. And these LEDs and this DC jack are actually a pain point to that end. Because you can't just unscrew a fastener and lift the whole nervous system out of the chassis, which is what would be done in an ideal world with a perfectly user serviceable slash upgradable slash modifiable device. So that is kind of why I compromise and make sure that those particular components are easily desolderable. So, as you may have seen before, the LED leads are crimped and soldered. I guess that's a little less serviceable. You know. And these guys, when I finally solder them in, I won't actually crimp the leads. I'll just have them going straight in, and that is the one time where I will actually use solder as glue. I'm not proud of it, but you gotta do what you gotta do to satisfy all of your mission objectives. The kind of cruel comedy of this process is, by the time I figure out the optimal technique for putting them together, I'm usually finished the batch. So it's like I get one or two really fast and easy ones in, and then it's into a waiting period, as I'm either developing a new thing, taking on a new project, or just, you know, focusing on trying to move these devices. Because what's the point of building them if nobody's going to play them? This little Neutrik style jack is actually kinda cool. It's also a pain in the ass to assemble if you don't have it mounted to a PCB like it's designed to be. Whereas if you're just raw dogging it like me, those little connections there dig into your finger as you're kind of holding it in place while you're cranking it over the way that it needs to be. But such is life. Gotta make sure I have an acceptable amount of shaft sticking out of the pedal. I don't know what consensus is on these things, but I do believe that these little guidelines on these switches should either be left or down. Oh, I forgot a very important thing. I've been thinking about it for a while, but I neglected it. Even though it's literally the core of what makes this device work. The humble LM348N. It's a horrible audio chip in terms of hi-fi performance. Low bandwidth, terrible slew rate. The onset of large signal performance is probably larger than it needs to be for most audio applications. But it has properties which make it ideal for this use case. I'll let you speculate and imagine and guess, or just straight up ask me what those properties are. because to me they are non-negotiable in a device intended for bass. All that's left is the testing, then final finishing. You will just have to trust me, but the test was a success. So now it's time to just tighten it all down. I've marred just one too many finishes. So I bought a I guess I spoke just a little too early, didn't I? Well, if I'm gonna mar a finish, it better at least be like a nice circle, instead of a weird wrench gouge. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Or something like that. Hold on to your fillings. Not my neatest John Hancock effort, but it conveys the relevant information. Alas, I do not have a fancy knob setter, so I kind of have to eyeball it. It's less of an issue on designs that don't have very many knobs. Actually, I was close, but not quite. Yeah, that looks about right. Banging.